We continue here on the show. Larry, Mike, and Brad, glad you're here with us as we talk more about around the Big Ten. Spent a lot of time, obviously, talking about Illinois and Penn State, a top 20 matchup, both teams undefeated. Can't wait for that one Saturday night on NBC. But some other games around this expanded Big Ten. Kind of fun to watch these games now that we don't have divisions and the four new teams coming in. Pretty good game here. Michigan showed up well in the fourth quarter to take down USC. What a thriller that one was up in Ann Arbor, and they get the Minnesota Golden Gophers this weekekend.
Yeah, that was a huge win for Michigan. I mean, there's just no other way to put it. That is a kind of win that maybe we were we were a little premature on their demise, right? I mean, that's a big time win. They're ranked 12th in the country. I think losing to Texas is just it's not a bad loss in any way, shape, or form, because that is a tough. Texas is really good, right? So now we see this is the kind of game, though, coming off that big win when you took care of USC. Now you've got to take on a Minnesota team that is desperate. Minnesota's desperate, and I don't think Minnesota's great, but Michigan better bring the same energy because this is not going to be easy.
I think this is going to be a bloody mess. I think Michigan is going to just out-physical the heck out of that Minnesota team, and the Minnesota fans are getting a little bit restless there at PJ Fleck, but I would advise, unless you've got a coach that is better than PJ, might want to just try to support him as opposed to tear him down and start over again.
Producer Tony was saying that Michigan showed USC what the Big Ten is all about. You know what? The Wolverines, I felt in that fourth quarter, they've got a little swag now coming out. I mean, that was a game that USC came out and did some big things in the second half. And really that USC defense held Michigan in check until there's just the one run, right? 63 yards on third down. He escapes a tackle somehow. And the game it's funny how that one play really may change the trajectory of both teams, Michigan and USC. And again, the Wolverines now getting Minnesota on Saturday. Meanwhile, Ohio State just ran past Marshall. I almost kind of felt bad for Fox that they had that game as the noon game, but then again, it did well in the ratings. So kudos to Fox. Now Ohio State goes in conference against Michigan State. The Spartans feel like a team that's kind of lost in the shuffle right now. I mean, they're maybe searching for a bit of identity, and where do they fit into this new world Big Ten?
Well, the big plays that the Buckeyes had were just insane. I mean, that just goes to show you the explosive players they have at both running back and wide receiver. And so I think that they're going to continue to have big plays. I think if you want to slow them down, you got to keep the ball in front of you. You can't allow them to get any kind of downfield plays. But Michigan State, they're probably better than I thought they were at this point. I mean, I would say that they're competing better, coming off a rough offseason. I mean, it was really difficult past year for them, past 12 months. But, they have the nice win at Maryland, and it's not a bad loss by 4 points at Boston College. That wasn't a bad loss. So this is a game where they want to just find a way if they can compete with Ohio State. And then, of course, they go to Oregon next week. So it's not going to get a lot easier. But this is a Michigan State team probably better than expected. But they're playing against what's probably the most talented team in the country.
Yeah, Ohio State's offense is like playing games, you holding the hand grenade and pulling the pin out and seeing if it blows up on you or not. I think that's going to be the problem for Michigan State. I think Michigan State has performed incredibly well for Jonathan Smith. I don't know if that's going to hold out against Ohio State team that knows they need a big performance because the spotlight is going to be on Georgia and Alabama, and you want to put your name out there. And certainly Tennessee is playing so well that people are starting to push them up in the rankings. So Ohio State's going to want to put some numbers up against MSU.
Well, and I think the big thing now is not just making the playoff, because with 12 spots, it gets a little easier, right? But you want that bye. You don't want to have to play one of those early round games, and you certainly don't want to play an early round game on the road. So the wins become really important, not just going undefeated. So many reasons that you don't want to slip up in case you have a loss later on down the line. Nebraska last week was ranked. They were flying along 3-0, looking great with their true freshman quarterback. And then the Illinois defense comes in and does a number on them. They lose, fall out of the rankings. Now they're on the road for the first time this season at Purdue, a couple of teams that, again, need to get a win.
Yeah. Purdue's a mess. I'm shocked at how poorly Purdue has played. It just kind of seems like that, it just hasn't clicked for Ryan Walters there, other than maybe 1 or 2 games here or there, but they're on a struggle bus. I still think Nebraska's good, but this is the kind of game, we got a young quarterback, you're going on the road in what will be a hostile environment, and Walters is a good defensive coordinator, so they're going to have a good game plan for trying to attack him. They saw what Illinois did and what was successful. So I do think that Nebraska is more talented. Nebraska should win this game, but they can't afford to make mistakes, on the offensive side, turnovers and things like that, young player mistakes. They can't do that even on the road. And if they take care of the ball, I think they'll be all right.
Yeah, Purdue's horrible, but I do think that this would. I look at this as
don't sugarcoat it, Mike.
Yeah, exactly. I look at this though as an opportunity for Nebraska. I would really be there. Like if we want to be good, guys, you need to not just beat these guys, but we need to ground and pound them. And this needs to be a tough one. And I think Matt Rule wants to exorcise those ghosts of the bad losses hurting Nebraska. And he has to come in there with like, there is no way we're losing this game. And he has to be really harsh about it.
This is the run my own business dream. This is the colleges paid for dream. This is the retire early dream. This is Busey, where your dreams and possibilities become moments through trusted guidance and expertise, through lifelong relationships. Because we're here to help you achieve the life you've always envisioned.
Yeah, there's no question. Well, guys, I mean, I go back to that Notre Dame game. I mean, that was just horrid. I mean, just to watch. We all were saying with Notre Dame's coming off the loss at home to NIU, and they're at Purdue, and it's Ryan Walters. He's the young hotshot coach, and we saw what he did at Illinois, and building some things there, and then they went and just never showed up. I mean, it just was,
they kept it within 59.
Well, exactly. There you go. They play them 10 times. They'll lose 9. Yeah. Okay. So exactly. I mean, you're exactly right. It was really horrid.
Larry, they could play them 3 more times, and Notre Dame could never get the ball, and they would still lose.
It was. Wow, it was epically bad. I mean, I started, channel surfing, coming back, and oh my God, the third string guy, he scored. What is going on here? So it was really, really bad. But okay, Nebraska, Purdue, we'll see what happens. Meanwhile, USC getting a taste of the Big Ten up in Michigan. Now they go back home to the Coliseum. Wisconsin coming in for their first California trip. For a regular season Big Ten game. And Wisconsin's a team also that's trying to figure things out. Their big game, losing to Alabama at home.
Yeah, Wisconsin, when you look at this, is not, I think there's a transition. Mike's talked about this a lot on this show, how Luke Fickell has to kind of transition his team to be a different team than what they were recruited to. And thus far, it's not there, right? I mean, they have not been good in the passing game. Haven't run the ball well enough. So they're kind of I think they're almost in purgatory, right? They're not a running team or a passing team. They're just a team that shows up. And when they play a good team, they're probably going to lose. And I think that's where they're at from a talent standpoint. So USC really needs to win this game. I mean, they got their testament. I don't think Wisconsin's physical like Michigan on the front line. So now it's USC can really probably do some things and open things up a little bit against this Wisconsin Badger team.
It's so weird to hear somebody say Wisconsin's not physical. And that's just so antithetical to everything we've heard the last 30 years. I think USC's biggest issue is Lincoln Riley. If he simply ran the ball instead of the screen pass and that shuttle thing and stopped the clock twice, then all of a sudden, Michigan probably wouldn't feel that they had the luxury to run the ball, and they might have been forced to have their quarterback actually pass. And then most likely, USC wins that game. And for a guy who's run the show at Oklahoma and the guy who's run the show at USC to not recognize something that basic in play calling, I just don't get it. And I have to really wonder if he's a good fit. if you really want to build another Pete Carroll like machine out in SC, I don't know that Lincoln Riley can do it.
Mike, but that's the difference between being the offensive coordinator and just having your gadgets and running your plays and being the head coach responsible for winning the game. And I don't know that he's shown the ability to be that head coach to win those big games yet.
Totally agree with you.
But I think he's a fantastic offensive mastermind.
Yes.
He's great offensive.
Yes. So with these gaps, he'll be the Cowboy coach next year.
And don't get Mike started on the Dallas Cowboys.
Honestly, you're probably only half joking.
I'm only half joking because Jerry's a mess.
Hey, but they're worth $1 billion. So there you go. The
$10
Cowboys,
billion,
USC,
but who's counting?
So, there you go. Exactly. So meanwhile, across town, speaking of a mess, is there any bigger mess right now in the Big Ten than UCLA? I mean, if you look at disappointments, they would have to be right there in terms of a team that, again, just looked horrid against Indiana, at least competitive for a while, taking on LSU, but ended up coming in with the loss there. Now 1-2, and you've got Oregon coming into town, one of the best teams in the country.
Yeah, I think this is going to be ugly. I don't think there's any way to describe this. They're going to Indiana beat them 42-13. Oregon's going to beat them worse. I firmly believe that. They're 25.5-point favorites, and I think they will, and it's a pretty high over and under, expecting Oregon to score lots of points. UCLA just doesn't look good. Deshaun Foster does not look like he's has the right plan in place to get this done. They can't score. They really are having a hard time stopping teams. They can't run the football, and they don't pass the ball great. So yeah, that's a bad combination if you're putting a team together.
I think UCLA has a concept for a plan. I will say that it doesn't get any easier for UCLA, because then having Oregon at home is one thing, but then they get to go on a plane and go play Penn State on the road next week. So somehow these schedule people have just decided that UCLA needs to be a punching bag here, and Deshaun Foster is going to have to do something different. I just think it's incredible, and maybe they just put the whole game in their punters' hands, because that's their strength as a team.
Guys, how about Dylan Gabriel and the college career that he has had at Central Florida and then Oklahoma, and now this year as he closes out his career at Oregon? He's completing 84% of his passes for Oregon. I mean, if you were playing a video game, you'd be thrilled with 84%. I mean, it's insane what he has done. And I think it's unfortunate. This is, again, where, the West Coast you just don't get the love in terms of Heisman and all that. I know Cam Ward's doing great, former Washington State quarterback, doing a, fantastic player, and he's deserving of all the hype in Miami. But how do you not put Dylan Gabriel at or near the top of the list with what he's done so far?
Well, because he's like 48 years old. He's right on. He's
in year 6.
He's gonna get year 60. So he's got more COVID years than than anybody. It's really amazing when you think about it what he's done. He's been fantastic, but he's throughout every year, and he was so good at Oklahoma, and now he's going to Oregon, and I think even more on an offense that's going to be even more wide open. And I'm really impressed. He's a great player, and it wouldn't shock me if Oregon's if their defense comes along, this offense can lead them into that college football playoff.
Yeah, he has done wonderfully. You're getting old when your biography is going to be narrated by Shelby Foote. I will say, when you look at a guy who's got 900 yards passing on only 94 attempts, that is a scary number. And then when you look at UCLA's defense, that number gets really, really scary. And I'm not certain what UCLA can do about it. They just may be in that point where there's nothing they can do other than shake hands with some class at the end of the game. They will
run after the guys, after they catch the ball and run into the end zone, they will chase them. That's what they will do, Mike.
With the best of them. Nobody chases like we do. You've never seen chasing like this.
We will look at the back of your numbers and run after you.
That's right. Exactly. All right. We got to take a quick commercial break. Back with more after this.
Red Grange wasn't just a football player. He was a legend. Discover the untold story of Illini great Red Grange in a new novel by Doug Vilhard called The Golden Age of Red. This captivating book takes you back to the 1920s when a humble young Illinois player transformed into the galloping ghost and electrified the nation. Get your copy of The Golden Age of Red by Doug Vilhard today. Available on Amazon and wherever books are sold.